Well, hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Hyperion Adventures Podcast. I'm Tom. As always, I'm here with my gorgeous, beautiful, intelligent, Disneyland-loving wife, Michelle.
Hi. Thank you, sweetie.
So good to have you with us. We're recording this episode on Sunday, September 1st, 2019, and we are recording this from a very interesting place.
Yeah.
We are in our hotel room at the Disneyland Hotel at the Disneyland Resort. Yeah, that's kind of fun, right?
It is totally fun.
Yeah, it was actually kind of nice to take a break from the day. It's a little hot out for, I know in Florida, it's like, oh yeah, whatever, it's hot or whatever, but it's hot out here for Southern California. And considering the Disneyland Resort doesn't have as much shady areas to kind of escape the weather because we're not used to this kind of weather, we needed to find our own escape. So we went to our hotel room.
Right, exactly. And it is a gorgeous day. All our thoughts and prayers are to everybody on the East Coast because we know you're being threatened by a massive storm over there, and been there, done that, so know how horrible that is.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm here complaining about the weather here when everybody on the East Coast is bracing Hurricane Dorian. Hopefully it stays true to what its path is right now, and looks like it's going to take a little bit of a right turn and not hit Florida full square. Still, all those people in the Bahamas and everything, we really feel for you. Hope you're all staying as safe as possible out there. And for everybody that is in the path in Florida, we hope you are staying safe as well.
Yes, and again, we know how tough of a situation that is. We know that it's even after a hurricane passes, it's still not settled down right away.
Michelle knows firsthand at how difficult a hurricane can be. I think you've had something with your house
lost
destroyed
the house.
by Hurricane Andrew back a long time ago. Yeah,
so know what a powerful storm can be.
Our thoughts and prayers are out there with you all, and hoping that this all turns out okay for you. But let's try and lighten the mood a little bit. And we'll get to our podcast today. And by the way, we had a fun time last week. If you haven't checked out Theme Park Thursday with Dillo's Diz yet, we joined them to talk a bit more about our experience at D23, and we just had a great time with Frank and Jen.
They're adorable and wonderful people, and we loved having that experience to share with them and be on their podcast.
Yeah, so you should definitely check that out if you want a little more of us, but definitely check them out for sure. By the way, Frank joined with Justin Monorail and Landon Doan, and they had a great couple days. Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at Walt Disney World Resort. That looked like a lot of fun.
It did look like a lot of fun, and it looked like they really enjoyed themselves. So that's cool.
Everybody who made it out there, we're so jealous. I mean, I know some of you were probably jealous of us when we got to visit Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at the Disneyland Resort. Believe me, we were really jealous of
back
you.
Back
in June, actually. It was June 1st.
Oh, that's right. We went June 1st.
Yes. But we're really jealous of all of you who got to experience that out there. But it looked like you all had a blast. Looked like it was everything everybody expected it to be. And we're excited to get out there and check it out for ourselves in December. So thanks for all those pictures. Thanks for all those memories you guys shared with us. And we're excited to, kind of take the journey along with you on social media.
Right. And we're excited that in December, we're going to be able to see that area over there as well.
Yes,
so have fun.
The whole area, and when we get over there, the Rise of the Resistance will be open. So
that's right.
That's very exciting. We're looking forward to that. And speaking of social media, please follow us on social media. You can find us on Twitter at Hyperion Podcast, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest at Hyperion Adventures Podcast. If you ever want to email us for any reason, please send it to HyperionAdventurespodcast@gmail.com.
And if you have any feedback for us, you can reach out to us in any of those ways. Or if you get a chance to give our podcast a little review, we'd love it.
We would love that. And check out our podcast. Obviously, you can get it pretty much everywhere you get podcasts, but the best place to find us is HyperionAdventurespodcast.com. Lots of stuff for you today, but, actually, we don't have as much
I was going to say, it's
news today
little
as normal, because I think all the news went back to D23. So we're going to look back a little more at D23. But first, this is Labor Day weekend, so we wanted to kind of, give some credit to some of the many, many cast members out there that really make our trips to the Walt Disney World Resort, to the Disneyland Resort, Disney Cruise Line, whatever the case may be, they make our trips that much more special. And so we kind of wanted to shine a light on some of the positions out there that maybe not get as much of the glory.
Right. And, obviously it takes a village, as they say. It takes everybody to have a part in the role of being a cast member and delivering excellent experiences for their guests. But like you said, we can't talk about all of them. And actually, I guess there's a book coming out that's stole our idea. They kind of stole our thunder here. But no, I'm just kidding. But we do wanted to take our opportunity to thank some of these fine employees, these cast members, in the sense of what roles are out there that might not get as much attention.
Right. I mean, if you ask somebody like, what Disney job would you like to hold? A lot of times it's like, oh, Imagineer,
right.
it's like, oh, monorail captain, Jungle Cruise skipper or whatever. We're not going to do any of those today. We're going to do something a little more under the radar. And we're going to kind of do our top 5 list of under the radar Disney cast members that we just kind of like to shine a light on. Now, that being said, all of the cast members play an important role, and we appreciate you all. You are the people that kind of set our trips apart from, going to any other vacation destination. The cast members really do make it special.
Yes, and they really, they're a special breed of people to be able to do that work.
With a smile on their faces.
They're doing it when everybody else is on vacation or holiday. And so it's our little tribute to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's get to it. It's our Labor Day weekend. Top 5 under the radar Disney cast member jobs. And we'll start, of course, as we always do, with Michelle, because she'll definitely have the best list.
I don't know.
But, she also had, by the way, a brother and a niece who worked at the Walt Disney World Resort for a while that were cast members. So she may know a little more about this than I do. Actually, a lot more about this than I do. So let's get to her list right away. Michelle, what's your number 5?
Okay, so my number 5 is the, and I'm not sure what they're called. I'm calling it the impromptu talent behind the wall. These are the people who customize the shows for like Turtle Talk with Crush and Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor. They have to be creative on the fly. They make each time we go there a very unique experience, fun experience. I mean, I know that they have some go-to things, but they really do interact with the crowd. But you don't even get to really see them. And so I felt like they're kind of behind the curtain.
They're really cool because they have to be very quick on their feet, responding to what people say and still be humorous and enjoyable. By the way, on the D23 floor, they had somebody dressed up as like one of the Dia de los Muertos skeletons on a screen that was on the floor, and you could walk up to it and it would ask you questions. And it was kind of similar technology to, obviously it wasn't as polished as Turtle Talk with Crush or the Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor, but it was still kind of that idea. And I noticed a lot of people were having a lot of fun with that. We checked it out for a little while.
That was cute.
Cool.
It was kind of like a one-on-one thing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that's my number 5. The people who really are behind the scenes. You never get to see them.
Right. Okay. That's great. I love it. Thanks. I love that pick. Okay. Michelle's list. Always the best list. My number 5 is going to be the people you meet the first time you step into the park. And that is going to be the ticket takers that greet you when you get there. They always have a smile on their face. A lot of times they're greeting you with a princess or a Jedi or something along those lines. And a lot of times they have to deal with specific issues in regards to magic bands or different passes or different tickets. Now, at the Walt Disney World Resort, a lot of times they get a little bit easier because they all usually have some sort of guest services with them. If there's some problems, they can kind of pass it on to them, and credit to them for doing all that, but they still have to deal with those things. So love them as well. But I'm just really specifically focused on what we've recently seen at the Disneyland Resort, because they have a lot of things to deal with when you're going through the opening gates at either Disneyland Park or Disney California Adventure Park. There's all sorts of different passes, annual passes, different days tickets. There are photos that need to be taken because they don't, if you're going to return, they look at your picture to make sure you're not just handing your pass off to somebody else, and they have to deal this kind of in an orderly way. So they still do it a lot of times, most of the time with a smile on their face, and they keep these lines moving as best they can. Sometimes they're really long, but they do the best job they can, and I really, really appreciate the kind of the thankless job that they do up there, just trying to get people into what they're looking forward to, into all these different lands, into these parks.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, and like you said, out here, there's that additional task of, there's blackout dates with different plans that might not be a blackout date for several others. And sometimes they're the ones that have to bear the bad news that, hey, you're here. I mean, we saw that one time. It was a couple, and it looked like a early on date situation, and you felt bad for all parties involved, but that ticket taker really did an excellent job of trying to soften the situation up, that it just wasn't going to happen because that ticket wasn't acceptable for that day.
Yeah, so they do a great job, and we really appreciate them, and they start all our journeys to the parks a lot of times, most of the time, with a good smile on our faces, and it's just, we appreciate them so much. So that's my number 5. Let's get to our number 4. Michelle, what is your number 4?
Okay, my number 4, also kind of on this creativity track and maybe less focus on them, are the puppeteers. And, some of the favorite ones that I thought of are the ones in the Finding Nemo, the musical at Animal Kingdom.
They're really good, yeah.
And the ones in Tangled, the musical on the Disney Magic on the cruise line. They're doing an amazing role, but they're really shining light on what they're displaying with their puppets. So again, they're behind the scenes involved in making the experience, the show, magical for everybody.
Right. Also, if you've ever seen the story of Coco, that was started out here at the Disneyland Resort and eventually now is at the Epcot at the Walt Disney World Resort, the puppetry in that is phenomenal.
It
as well.
It is. So it's great. It's great technique using the puppets. But again, on Labor Day, just want to shout out to the people who don't get that glory because they're kind of behind the scenes in that.
They're focusing on the actual puppet,
right?
And not the person controlling
Exactly.
the puppet so often. Yeah, I love that. That's a good choice.
Thank you.
Good choice.
What about you?
My number 4 is I'm going to kind of paint this with a broad brush and just go with the safety teams that are out at both the Walt Disney World Resort and Disneyland Resort, and for that matter, Disney Cruise Line, because these are some of the people that you see, but are a lot of times doing things that you don't see to make sure you are safe on your vacations at the Walt Disney World Resort, Disneyland Resort, Disney Cruise Line. Yes, I mean, obviously you have to go through security, you have to scan in, get your bag checked, all these different things to go in. But a lot of times they're keeping eyes on things that you don't even see. And that includes, like I said, I'm going to broad brush this. I'm going to, go with the lifeguards that are at all the Disney pools and everything. They're part of the safety team as well. I'm always amazed. I'll just sit there when I'm at a Disney pool and watch the lifeguards and just see how they're constantly they're trained to just move their head back and forth and just keep their eyes on everything that's going on in the pool. If you ever go to a Disney pool and just watch some of the lifeguards, it's amazing how they are trained to keep an eye on everything that's going on at any one time. It's very impressive.
Right. You're absolutely right. And it is a key. I mean, safety, whether you're talking about pools, water safety or just being around the parks, etc., that is such a key role. And again, they may not be perceived as somebody who's providing a service, but they really are.
And, we want to talk about these safety teams. I mean, they really have done a phenomenal job of keeping these parks as safe as possible inside and outside, in this era where we've seen some bad things happen in the community. Disney is thankfully so far, knock on wood, been safe from that. And part of that is because of the security teams that do such a great job. And I'm also going to talk about, some of the other people like the first aid people and the medical attention people, because sometimes there's a lot of unforeseen things that happen in the park. People trip, fall, people have heart attacks, whatever the case may be. We talk about the Walt Disney World Resort, or even this weekend at the Disneyland Resort, people overheat. These teams are there to kind of help you out should an emergency situation arrive, and they do a phenomenal job with that as well.
Yes, absolutely. Ooh, I said it there already, but not too many times. I think I'm a little in check now. But yeah, and the other thing that's really cool about them is that they are approachable, especially like for kids, that they really make sure that they don't come across like really mean or stern, that kids can come. And, I love how it's not the child that's lost, but rather the parents that are lost. And, they really have done a great job of coming up with processes to make everybody feel as comfortable in those types of situations as possible.
Right. So, like I said, it's a broad brush kind of, but I think it's a very important tool, and they do a great job, and I appreciate the safety teams on all the resorts and the Disney Cruise Line.
Likewise. Yeah, that's a good choice. And they're dealing with these lines a lot of time, and it's also hot out there, or in Florida, very humid, and again, they're very pleasant with everybody as they're moving them around. So,
yeah, that's my number 4. Michelle, let's get to your number 3.
All right. So my number 3 is also kind of a broad stroke approach. And funny, it starts with the word third. It's the third shift cast members.
Yes. By the way, we have the glorious hotel room view of the parking lot out there. And
standard view.
The parking lot view is actually a place where a lot of the third shift cast members are. I was just fascinated watching them leave this morning. I'm like, yeah, you go third shift team.
That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's an amazing group of people. As you mentioned, I had a brother who, early on was working third shift. They really are people who they get a lot of attention maybe seasonally as they're transforming the parks into a whole new look, whether you're talking about transforming it into right now the Halloween season or later into Christmas season, etc. But their routine work is just as impressive. They refresh the park from top to bottom so that it looks amazing and new the next day for all of us to join in.
Yeah, agreed. They do a fantastic job of tidying up the park, making sure everything is polished, ready to go, so you can get the park that you expect when you walk in every day. And yes, that is definitely a very under the radar team, because they're doing stuff well before anybody gets in and well after everybody leaves.
Right.
I appreciate that team so much. And gosh, those hours that they have to work,
I know.
It's tough. So thank you to all the third shift team.
Yeah.
Yes. So, by the way, if you're hearing a few noises in the background, you're here with our son Scott, and it's his birthday celebration weekend. That's part of the reason why we're here. And while we're doing this podcast, he's got a little music playing. He's doing a little singing in the background. So just let you know, we have this happen every once in a while during the podcast. A lot of times we were recording on our own, but every once in a while he's around with us. So if you ever hear those noises in the background, just wanted to fill you in with what they are.
Yes, thank you.
So, but he's having a good old time here at the Disneyland Resort as we celebrate his birthday. Yeah. So let's get to my number 3 team. Mine is kind of along the same terms, but more the regular team. But I guess the third shift team, yes, is part of this. But my number 3 is the cleaning and sanitation teams at the park. Because, I mean, if there's one thing that sets the Disney parks and Disney Cruise Line apart from many of the other theme parks, many other vacations you will go on, it is the cleanliness of the parks, how much they go out of their way to make sure the restrooms are clean, that there's trash on the ground for very little time. Right. You just be one of the cleanest theme parks you will ever visit. They set the standard at the Walt Disney World Resort, the Disneyland Resort, and especially on Disney Cruise Line for how tidy their areas are, their general areas are. And that is all thanks to the cleaning and sanitation teams at the parks and on the Disney Cruise Line.
Most definitely. And they're always appreciative when somebody really stops and pays them a compliment or thanks them, and that's really cool too, because, again, it's not one of those jobs that most people would say, yeah, sign me up for that. And yet they do such an amazing job. And I love how they even make it more creative with doing the water paint on the ground,
the artist
stuff. And I mean, it's great that they bring in their enthusiasm to make things even more fun for everybody.
And they're always happy to answer questions if you have some, even though that's not really their main task out there in the parks. A lot of them wear pins, and if you're a pin trader, you can go up to them and ask them about trading pins. They're happy to do that too.
Right.
They're just a really wonderful team for people that, for a job that most of us really would not want to do. And I really appreciate that they do that every single day to make these parks, again, another thing that sets the Disney parks apart. So that is my number 3.
That's a great one.
Michelle, what is your number 2?
Okay, my number 2 are the people who are either boarding or helping exit people from an attraction. Like I'm thinking like Haunted Mansion or the Skyway. I mean, they have to repeat the same things over and over and over, and yet each time they interact with a guest, they are doing it in a way that it feels like that's the only time that day that they have said it. And a lot of times they're in character as well, especially like at rides like the Haunted Mansion. And, seems like it could become a really mundane job, and they make it still be very wonderful for all the guests. And I really appreciate that they can do that. I don't know that I'd have that stamina.
I'm telling you, especially in some of these days like the heat today and out there at the Walt Disney World Resort for sure, and the heat and humidity and some of the costumes, the outfits they have to wear, you know.
And you're constantly walking a lot of times if it's a moving track. And
yeah, we had a nice interaction with a cast member at the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh today.
Right.
As a matter of fact, we gave a cast compliment to Paula, who, we talked about, saw us yesterday out there because that's one of our son's favorite rides, and saw us today. And you guys are almost honorary members of the 100 Acre Wood.
Right, yeah. She made us feel very, very proud.
Yeah,
very special.
That was really nice.
Yeah.
But these people are all very special, and they do a wonderful, wonderful job. So great choice.
Thank you. What about your number 2, sweetie?
My number 2 is going to be a combination of the mousekeeping staff at the Disney resorts and the stewards on board Disney Cruise Line, because let's face it, we are all pigs. Okay, you go to our hotel rooms, you go to our cabins aboard Disney Cruise Line, and we have kids, we have a lot, we're running in and out of the room, we're throwing stuff everywhere. These people have to come in and clean up our dirty towels and straighten up our beds and everything. And most of the time they do it and you don't even notice them. You leave your room and it's filthy, and you come back and it's sparkling. I'm not saying our room is filthy, but
we're not total pigs. We do our freshened towels.
But just think of it. I'm not saying we're pigs.
Right.
I'm not saying you're pigs, but you know who those people are that are absolute pigs, and there are a lot of them out there. And these people have to do it with a smile every day, and they deal with it, and they do a fantastic job. And then they put the perks on top of it, like sometimes they do towel animals, special gifts if they know you have kids. Yes. They do little things to make your vacation that much more special while cleaning up. Not us. We're not pigs. Not you. You're not pigs. But you know who those people are. And they have to clean up after a lot of those people. So, many, many thanks to all of them that do that for us.
That's true. And it's really nice, like you brought up about the Disney Cruise Line, is those room stewards really do interact from day one. They introduce themselves to you, so that it's not just somebody passing through that is cleaning your room. It's just somebody that they know that their presence is there to help your experience be better, and they really do try to get to find out your preferences, and they go that extra mile to make it so special.
Mm-hmm. Get to know all the cast members, but it really, if you're on a Disney Cruise Line, get to know your cabin steward, because they are fantastic people. They all have stories. They come from interesting countries, interesting places in the world. They are wonderful people to speak with, and they do a fantastic job for us. And again, it's a role that especially on a Disney Cruise Line, because those people work crazy, ridiculous hours. They don't really get full days off. Maybe they get a half day off occasionally.
Right, a few hours here and there.
Yeah, they do unbelievable work, and we appreciate every one of them.
Yes, that is so true. And like you said, that's a really good point. They do have wonderful stories. I've learned a lot from a lot of the people that we've talked to about their cultures or their countries, and take the time and interact with those people, and you'll be richer for it.
Yeah, I believe that with all the cast members, but especially on Disney Cruise, because so many from Disney Cruise, they are from various different parts of the world that maybe you don't get to experience much. So they all have very interesting stories. So please, if you're on a Disney Cruise Line, get to know your server, get to know your stewards, get to know the crew, because they are very, very interesting people, and you might learn a lot of stuff about different parts of the world that you knew very little about.
Right.
Yeah. So that's my number 2. Let's get to our number one. Michelle, your number 1, which is bound to be the best number 1.
I'm wondering I'm surprised so far we haven't had a repeat of the same thing. So I don't know. But my number 1 is the guest relations staff. And, yes, they're oftentimes able to really make magic and see immediately the thrill on people's faces for what they do. But the reality is they are also the people who have to listen to people complaining all day.
People complain?
I
I've
know,
never
right?
seen anybody complain at the parks. I don't know what you're talking about.
Never. And, they have to handle those situations delicately and with a smile. Sometimes it might be somebody has the most ridiculous complaint. Like, it's like, really? You're going to complain about that? Or some unrealistic expectations, and I'm sure they'd rather say, to these people, you're being a jerk right now. But they don't. They actually, thank people for, sharing their experiences and work to whatever they can do to try to make things better. And I think that they're really in a tough situation. And I couldn't imagine at the end of a shift how I would feel if all I was hearing most of the day is complaints.
Right. Agreed. And to do it with a smile on their face and try and make it as right as possible for some people that are asking for ridiculous stuff, or it seems they feel like they are entitled to things just because they're on vacation that they aren't necessarily. Not that we've ever seen that or anything, but it is crazy. And guest relations do a phenomenal job, and they answer a lot of questions. They're willing to help you out, whether it's simple, whether it's difficult. They're willing to work with you and try and make it as right as possible to make your vacation be a wonderful one.
Right.
So, yeah. Great choice again. Michelle's number one.
Oh,
always
thank you.
Number one.
What's yours though?
My number one goes to my chef heart. And I'm going to talk about the culinary teams at the parks and the resorts and the cruise ships, because especially, there's one thing to know about the main chefs for all these restaurants. A lot of times you'll see them be out front. They'll come and greet guests or whatever. But I'm talking, yes, they do a fantastic job. They help to design ththese menus. And it's not easy with Disney because Disney has very strict rules with designing different menus and everything.
Right.
But I'm going to specifically talk about the culinary team maybe you see, but you don't really see as much. They're not out in the forefront. They're not out there greeting the guests and getting some of the glory, quote unquote,
right.
So these people work really hard. Think about how much food you eat when you go to these Disney parks, and all these meals are created by this culinary team, whether if it's a simple grab and go dish or whether it's a real sit down developed menu. And most of that, these chefs that you see out front there, they may design the menu, but they're not doing the hands-on labor intensive prep work, the cooking work to really get these dishes out. This is what this culinary team does. They do a phenomenal job of it. The food, for the most part, is very good at the Disney parks. And it even gets more extensive when we're talking about some of the festivals that go on. Like right now, we just kicked off Food and Wine Festival at the Walt Disney World Resort. That is that much more food that they need to kick out and do different things with, all these small plates and all these different booths and everything. And they need to find a way to get it out to these kiosks and get it delivered to you in a fresh as possible way. And they just do an amazing job to handle all that. I've worked in catering. I've worked in kitchens. I understand what it takes to kind of get these things done. And it is always impressive to me, whether, whatever you think about Disney food, some of it is good. Some of it is, it's hit and miss.
Right.
I tend to like it more than I dislike it. I tend to think there are more hits than misses. But either way, they do an amazing amount of work behind the scenes that you never will know about. These culinary teams do a phenomenal job to get the food out to you, to feed you on your vacation, whether it be one day at the park, whether it be 7 days. And again, the Disney cruise, these people are working breakfast, lunch, dinner to get you these phenomenal meals on Disney Cruise Line. Think about, if you've gone on a Disney cruise and you go into the dining room, think about how many meals they're presenting at one time out there for these. It is amazing the job they have to do to get this food out to you. So I want to thank the culinary teams at the Walt Disney World Resort, at the Disneyland Resort, and on Disney Cruise Line.
Sure. I remember one time when you were interning, and I remember you had to handpick the cloves of thyme.
Oh, thyme. Thyme isn't just known. There's a reason why it's called thyme. Not just because it's called the herb thyme, but if you have to hand shell so much thyme, it takes a lot of time. Yes.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of little tedious things that the culinary department needs to do that somebody may be doing that for hours at a time, just to make and elevate the quality of that dish that they're helping prepare.
Yeah, it's not that's the guy that's on the grill, getting your
Right.
meats ready, or he's got his saucepan going, and you see it flambe and everything. No, I mean, yes, those people do a great job, and they
Right.
have a lot. That's a hard job. But it's the people that have to cut up all the vegetables,
Right.
that have to make the sauces, that have to, pick the thyme, that have to clean the shrimp, all things like that. It really will take up a lot of your day. So those are our list of our most underrated Disney jobs. There are a lot of great Disney jobs, and I want to thank all the Disney cast members that make our trips very special. And I also want to thank all the cast members that were out at D23 Expo 2019 last week, because you have a thankless job. I mean, many of you were placed out there in roles that is not really what you do. And you're not really told much else of what to expect outside of what your job is, and yet you're being asked questions by everybody. But you always answered them the best you could with a smile on your face.
Right.
You were wonderful people. When we walked off, we talked about this. If you haven't heard our wrap up for the everyday episodes, you were applauding us and high-fiving us as we left, mostly because you're like, yeah, it's over. But also just because that's how you didn't have to do that. That group of cast members did not have to do that. That was bonus. That was a plus on our D23
They just had to watch, make
experience.
sure people were leaving.
Right.
And,
So thank you for all that. We really appreciate all the cast members, but for those at the D23 Expo who were doing above and beyond what their number. By the way, we had people coming to man the stores that were from Disney stores, and then we see one that was from Oregon or Washington
Right,
or somewhere in the
yes,
Pacific
yes.
Northwest that came in.
Right.
They were coming in from different states to help man all these different kiosks and positions to make sure that we had as amazing D23 Expo as possible.
Yeah, and they were enthusiastic. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Yes.
So thank you to all of them. And speaking of D23 Expo,
Yes.
well, guess what? We don't have one top 5 list. We have 2 top 5 lists to go over this week.
Cool.
Yeah, you don't seem like you were prepared for that.
I remember we were going to be talking about experiences with D23 wrap up, but hey, I can wing it.
So we're going to go through, I guess, at least I was plotted out for this, our top 5 moments from our D23 experience. Now, if you've listened to our recaps of every day from the D23 Expo, you know that there were some things that kind of struck chords with us more than others. Well, we had plenty of those that we discussed on the show, but there's probably a couple that we missed on the show. So we kind of thought we'd go through them and kind of recap a few of our favorite moments from the D23 Expo 2019.
Sounds like a plan.
Right. At least it sounds like a plan for me. Apparently, Michelle was not prepared for this plan, but that's okay. You know what? Even unprepared, she will have a better list than me. So it's all right. I'll let you wing it. You can go by 5.
Yeah.
You can just name moments. Since you weren't really prepared for this as I thought.
I'm sorry.
That's not a problem, honey. It's a miscommunication. Believe me, it's always on my end.
No.
Let's find out what your top moments from the D23 Expo 2019 were.
Okay, so my number 5 would be, and it actually might sound like a little thing, but I think first of all, I wasn't thinking we were going to be able to experience this because of conflicts with some of the shows and presentations that we went to, but it's seeing the parade on the floor, seeing that daily. Now, we didn't see it daily. We really only got to see it once, but it was such a blast. I mean, it's amazing what they can do in that space and make it feel so festive and exciting. And I think, again, what made it even more so for me was I thought we were going to miss all of them this year, and we actually got one fit in.
Right. Well, I actually got to see 2, but that was one when you were unfortunately suffering. And thank you to everybody out there that sent Michelle sweet notes. She's doing much better now. Obviously, you can hear she sounds much better. She's recovered, but she fought through D23 Expo 2019 like a trooper from that day that she was suffering from a little food poisoning or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I'm so glad. that you got to see one of the parades.
Yeah.
They do that twice a day, every day at the D23 convention. They do a little fan parade where they have a band and they have some characters and dancers, and then they usually have some sort of grand marshals that are usually somebody from Disney TV, Disney movies, whatever the case may be, and that's always fun.
Right, exactly.
So I love the parades, and it's always just a fun way to kind of break up the day at the D23 Expo, right in the middle of the D23 Expo floor.
Yeah.
And if you ever want to know, well, I don't know if it goes to Orlando, which we're speculating it might in 2021, but if you ever want to know a little secret place to get a good front row spot at the Anaheim Convention Center when that parade comes around, just hit us up, because I know a special little spot.
Yeah, I was impressed with that.
I mean, where everybody else is lining up, maybe people don't know the parade's going to go this way, and I always, even last minute can find us a good spot up front. So you can hit us up if D23 Expo 2021 happens to return to Anaheim. I'm just not sure if it's going to, but we'll see how that goes out. My number 5, and it's something that we actually didn't talk much about as we discussed a lot of the parks panel, both on this show and also on the on Theme Park Thursday with Dillo's Diz. And that is something that kind of went under the radar because there was so much discussion of, the Epcot changes, the new Disney ship coming, Avengers Campus at both Disney California Adventure Park and Disneyland Paris. But there was also, a little more, we got a little more input, a little more info on the Zootopia theme land that's coming to Shanghai Disney Resort. And we got some concept artwork for that. And it looks like it's going to be another wonderfully immersive area. I am a huge fan of the movie Zootopia. I think it's one of the better films that's come out over the last several years. And so I was very excited to see some of this artwork. And I know it's out there online if you want to take a look for it. But it actually looks like you're right there in Zootopia. And I'm hoping that is going to continue with this immersiveness that we're seeing from many of the new lands they're developing. And that looked exactly what it was going to be in the Zootopia theme land at Shanghai Disney Resort.
Yeah, it really did look so amazing. As you're mentioning, immersive and exciting. I think, I don't want to steal your thunder with any of this, but I think a lot of the things that they were talking about at some of the other parks throughout the world were very exciting. Mm-hmm. Like the new castle at Hong Kong,
of course,
the Princess's Castle, and different things. But Zootopia. I was kind of jealous about that. That looked really cool.
Well,
really cool.
We want to go to the Asian theme park sometime in the next 5 years or so. Maybe we'll hold off until that land is open, for us to visit Shanghai. Anyway.
True.
But that looks exciting. And it was just one of those things that I kind of felt like it was early on in the presentation and it kind of got glossed over as so many more major announcements were made throughout it. So I just wanted to revisit that a little bit because I don't think we even talked about it. So
right.
I definitely wanted to revisit that. So that's my number 5. Michelle, do you have a number 4?
Yes, I do, actually. So I would say my number 4 was, kind of some of the details of the newer hotels that are coming out at Disney World. Love how they're having one that's associated with the Princess and the Frog theme, where they will have
over at Reflections,
right, that they're going to have a restaurant there. It's going to kind of be on the water and look like the bayous, and I just thought that was really creative, and another fun resort to look forward to visiting at some point.
I love that they're going to have those A-frame kind of waterfront areas, kind of like they do at the Wilderness Lodge. Only these are A-frame places, and also they're going to have tree houses,
right?
Treehouse suites, which is fascinating too. And I was like, ooh. Treehouse suite. That sounds fun.
I know.
If they're 1 bedrooms and we can get it into our points, our DVC points, we may have to do one of those tree houses there.
Yeah.
That looks cool. So, I like that as well. And I think it's another thing we kind of glossed over a little bit as they kind of got lost in the shuffle, a lot of things we talked about. So,
and, it was funny because at first it was like, how are they going to fit all that over there? But they have been very creative with how they utilize space, and I think it's going to be neat having another resort over in that area. They certainly can. They have the area that wasn't being used already.
Right. Over
so
that river country.
Right, the
river
old
country,
river country area. So very cool, and looking forward to seeing what that turns out and visiting it.
Me too. I'm very excited about that. And as we keep getting more artwork for that, I'm very excited for that resort once it finally gets done here in a couple of years.
Yeah.
My number 4 is Lighthouse Point. Hopefully, God, speed all those people out there, because that they're about to hit the brunt of it if they're not hitting it right now as we're recording this. So, but the resort doesn't matter; those people matter. But I still want to talk about this resort and talk about some of the things that they presented to us about it, and what's going to happen to this place as it eventually becomes a Disney Cruise Line destination. And it sounds phenomenal. They're working currently. We had Joe Rohde come out and talk to us. He's been working closely with a lot of Bahamian artists. And not Bohemian. Well, maybe they're Bahamians. I don't know. Bahamian artists and culturalists out there to kind of make sure that is kept throughout this land. Remember, this land it had to go through the Bahamas government to kind of allow this to be, Right. I mean, I'm sure, of course, money played a big part in that. But, they also Disney had to tell them that we're going to be doing this, justice. We're not just going to ruin this place, no matter what some people might think about that.
Right.
Yeah. And they're also working very hard with some conservationists to make sure that this place is kept as, naturally less impacted as possible, because they want to keep that going. So, but we love some of the artwork they got as far as what they're going to work with. Is they're going to go right off of some Bahamian artists and bring in some of those color schemes and some of the culture that is from the Bahamas, and make sure and that is integrated within this resort. And it just looks spectacular. The artwork we saw, the concept art we saw, what it's going to look like when it's all said and done. It's going to be one of those places that is going to be a must-do on your Disney cruise. And I would be good with, when this is done, with a Disney cruise that goes to Castaway Cay and goes to Lighthouse Point, and that's it.
Right.
I would be thrilled with that, or even double dip on both of them. I'd be thrilled, because those look fantastic.
You're absolutely right. I mean, the bold colors that they were showing us were just phenomenal. And the fact that they aren't just saying, okay, this is just going to be kind of like a water park kind of land. You just go and, sit outside and you can do some things on the water, but really enhancing the area and the experience with all this unique local artwork, which I thought was a great collaboration that they decided to do, rather than making it, just a very simple place. It looks more like a port, as if you were going to any other country's port. You're going to go in and really experience that culture. And what's going to be nice is it's really going to kind of be condensed and immersive, all in Lighthouse Point.
Right. So I'm excited for that once they get it developed. We're getting the new cruise ship. Obviously, they named the Disney Wish as the next one. There's 2 more to come. And that's going to be a regular stop once they get it developed and ready to go. And I'm excited to visit it sooner rather than later, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, especially after seeing that artwork. So that was cool. That's my number 4. Let's get to Michelle's number 3.
Okay, so my number 3 was just a fun experience of watching the various character voice artists perform. And, whether they're doing Donald or Goofy or Mickey, and it was just fun watching them on stage do that. But additionally, more than that, I mean, that was amazing in and of itself, but hearing the story that it wasn't until the 80s that they even took notice to the fact that they did not have standardization throughout their organization of these character voices. And so what might be recorded in one show for a Mickey Mouse in another area in a park for Mickey Mouse might be very, very different. And so it was wonderful to hear how that developed into something solidified in a way that you have that consistency.
Right. And they were saying a point that there was 16 different people voicing Mickey at certain times, at the same time. And it's that's just because then they were concerned not only just them not sounding the same, but also like some of the language and some not like this, the foul mouthed Mickey or anything, but like the mannerisms and the phrasing that they would use is not like what they standardize with Mickey, with Donald, with Goofy. And so that's what they wanted to do, is condense this to make sure that whomever is using these voices, yes, they sound proper, but also they are using the right phrasing, the right, language, how you would expect Mickey to sound, how you expect Minnie to sound, how you expect Donald, especially because Donald is a little bit crazy.
Right.
Like he has to sound exactly right. So.
Right. And it was interesting that, that Donald wouldn't just repeat everything anybody would say, that there would be words that were, even though they were challenging to hear, clear enough to be able to be heard. I don't know if that makes sense, but just the phraseology that they were working with would be consistent. And I also love the fact that once they had that core team, that everybody else that was going to be taking over that torch were learning from those people. And not just in the sense of, oh, let me, check it out. Do I sound like you did when you did Donald Duck or when you did Pluto? But actually, getting to know each other and getting to the heart of what these characters bring every time.
Right. They would ask, like, it was Ducky would originally play Donald, was getting Tony Anselmo, and he would question him not only on, speak like Donald, but also how would Donald respond to this situation, and then he would kind of train him in that regard.
Right. Yeah. And again, learning the heart of these characters as well. So
yeah,
it was fun watching it, and it was such a unique story of how this all developed over time.
Yep. So good. I agree. That was one of my favorite panels, was the voices panel overall, especially when we had the main characters out.
Right,
that was so
right.
Good. My number 3 is a film that we knew nothing about going in, because we had heard nothing about this, and that is the announcement of Raya and the Last Dragon that came out. We didn't know that there was another, not that it surprised us that there wasn't a new Walt Disney animation film in the works, but we had heard zero about it.
Right.
So for this coming out, and then to hear and see and watch some of the stuff from it, it looked phenomenal. I mean, we saw a clip from it, and the animation was unbelievable.
Yeah, breathtaking.
I mean, some of the stuff, I swear it looks like it's live action. It's so good. The animation is crazy now. But also, you look at some of the people that were attached to it. Adele Lynn, who, if you know the movie Crazy Rich Asians, she did the screenplay for that film, and we like that movie a lot. So we were excited for that. Cassie Steele playing Raya. Awkwafina, also from Crazy Rich Asians, who is playing Sisu. And Paul Briggs, who has done many of the story work for Frozen, Big Hero 6, and Zootopia, is directing this film. And it just looks phenomenal, and I was very excited about it when we saw this. And it's coming out in November of 2020, and I'm already thrilled and can't wait to see it and see how it progresses over the next year and a couple months.
Right. Yeah. It does look like it's going to be wonderful. And it was a really nice, like you said, surprise that we didn't know anything about it. It was interesting hearing, some of the main artists who were involved in the concept of the artistry and in the storyline. We saw them in other panels too, and so got a little bit more glimpse into what this is, or at least maybe not so much what the storyline is about, but how it has been developing.
Right. So I'm very excited for that film. I can't say that I'm more excited for Frozen 2, but than for Frozen 2, but I am very excited for that movie just from the little glimpse that we got of it. It looks fascinating. It looks from, it's all taken from areas of Southeast Asia where they haven't approached as much in these movies, and it sounds fascinating. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So.
And if you ever get to, a lot of times after these movies come out and you get to see the bonus tracks and things like that, the amount of research that they went through to capture the essence of the cultures that they wanted to address, even though they were creating, lands that don't really exist, but to make them hold some of those cultural aspects of it was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, was really cool. Really cool. So glad to see that.
Yeah, that would be one of the jobs that I'd want to do, those kind of research
where you
jobs.
just go to these places and just talk to people.
If I was going to pick a Disney job, that'd be it. Yeah.
There you go. I don't blame you for that. That was my number 3. What's your number 2?
Okay, so my number 2 is probably in your number 1 area. I don't mean to override that, but in mine, I think I picked also because of how, even since we've heard this announcement in my head, I've, kind of gone through some things of how it might turn out. And that's the Star Wars Hotel. Yeah. I mean, it's a 2-day, 2-night experience. It's going to be immersive. You're going to be there, which is not at all, when we first heard about this hotel that was going to be developed, that wasn't, I think, where we were thinking it was going to go. And the more we have thought about it and talked about it, and kind of comparing it to a 2-day, 2-night cruise and all the different experiences you have there, I could just see it. I mean, maybe we're wrong, but I can just see it feeling more like, you're on a cruise. And the fact that you're not supposed to be in a hotel, right? You're traveling. You're on a cruise actually through space.
Starship, yeah.
Right. And so I just love that they put that spin to it, and that it can be an experience that's going to be, really unique and fun. And I'm just very, very excited about it.
I can't tell you how excited I am about it. I decided to I meant to mention this to begin with, to keep Star Wars completely off my list because it may have just dominated my list because there were so many good Star Wars things that came out of D23 Expo 2019. But yeah, I could not be more excited for that. And I'm telling you, we're going to have, I know it's going to cost a crazy amount of money, but we have to find a way to do it because it just would fulfill. I mean, Galaxy's Edge has already fulfilled the child inside me, but this is like the next level of fulfilling that Star Wars fan that has been within me since I was, 8 years old. I just cannot wait to try this out and do this little 2-day cruise, 2-day, 2-night cruise aboard the Halcyon and to experience all the different things that they have to offer and live the Star Wars cruise that you'd always want to go on.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely is exciting. And it'd be fun.
It'll be fun. I'm excited. Won't be more. I mean, that thing is coming along. It won't be too long before they start opening that up, but that's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that. So my number 2 was something, unfortunately, Michelle didn't get to experience this because this was one of the days where she was feeling ill, and it was during the Disney Plus panel. Mm-hmm. And that was actually during the Marvel phase. And yes, I mean, we learned a lot about, many of the series that are coming out, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, WandaVision, all these many other series that are coming out. But I really was blown away by the What If animated series, some of the stuff we saw from that. Now, if you haven't heard of it, or if you didn't see this from the D23 Expo stuff, it's an animated series that is essentially based on the fact that they'll look at stories that from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they're going to twist them a little bit. That's why it's what if this happened, what if that happened, what if ever. They showed us some little clips, like a sizzle reel from it. The animation looks spectacular. They told us they got all the original voices that filmed these characters or voiced these characters within the actual films to come back and voice it for the series. So that's exciting. I love the concept of it. It's kind of like they're going to view it as the watchers looking out and exploring the multiverse of, yes, this story, but what if this happened? And we got to see Peggy Carter actually become the super soldier instead of Steve Rogers. And, and there's going to be many storylines along that path. And I'm excited for the whole thing. I was sort of intrigued by the concept going in, but then when I got to see the sizzle reel, hear that they got all the voices to recreate their characters, I was sold. I'm in. I cannot wait for this series to come out, and so that's why it was my number 2 on my list.
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen that in their series Once Upon a Time, where they took characters of fairy tales that we've known for a long time, and not just give them a backstory, but have some twist to it. Obviously, seeing the evil queen become the nice queen, which was nice,
mostly.
Yeah, but I mean, so we've seen how they've had an intriguing series through that perspective. So seeing it in the Marvel land, or Marvel universe, seems like it's a good fit too.
Yeah. Very excited for it. So that's one more thing for Disney Plus that we are signed up for. I know many of you out there are signed up for it now. I think you still have a few more days. If you want to get out there, if you're a D23 member and sign up for that discount, do it, because it's a crazy, if you're going to do Disney Plus anyway, it's a crazy bargain to sign up for right now. So get out there, go to the D23 website and sign up for that 3-year deal for Disney Plus, because the content on it is definitely worth the less than $4 a month that they're charging for
right?
it. So, take advantage of that. So that is my number 2. Michelle, what is your number 1?
My number 1, and I think I've shared this on our podcast and when we were on Theme Park Thursday podcast, but seeing Dick Van Dyke come out on the stage.
I thought that would be, I would have put it on my list, but I knew you was going to be on your list.
Right.
So.
I mean, he is such a phenomenal icon with the organization, with the, the history of Mary Poppins. So just, seeing him come out and introduce, the new aspects of Epcot in the Great Britain Pavilion, certainly made sense. But again, just the fact that they took the time to honor him by doing that. I mean, they could have just made the announcement. There's been a new Mary Poppins film, and so they could have just kind of glossed over, but they didn't. They really, took the time, brought him out there and honored him and his historical impact on the company. And I thought that was great and certainly brought tears to my eyes.
Mine too. It was an amazing moment. We were so lucky to have been there for that moment and to see it all. And then right afterwards, tell us there's going to be a Mary Poppins ride attraction at Epcot in the Great Britain Pavilion. I just couldn't be more excited about the whole thing. And seeing Dick Van Dyke. And I don't know if for those of you who have seen some of this, I don't know if you got to see the end of it, where it looks like he's got a cane with him and he looks like he may be a little feeble or whatever when he's coming out. But then as he's strolling off stage, he's twirling the cane.
I know.
And basically
great.
Just kind of, a little pep in his step as he was going off there. He's still, doing fantastically. He's amazing. He's just an amazing human being. That's for sure.
Yeah. Very impressive. And so that was fun. That was an amazing experience.
Yeah. Excellent. That's a great number 1 choice. Like I said, it would have been probably on my list, but I knew it would be on yours. So that's why I didn't put it on mine.
Thanks.
My number 1 is, Real Men Love Frozen. The Frozen 2 footage and everything we got, I'm excited. I'm all in on Frozen 2. I'm excited for it. I thought the songs that we heard were fantastic. I don't know if it's just the newness of them or whatever, but they almost sounded better than, and I love the music from the original Frozen. Right. The fascinating, I think that there's, an interesting concept behind, looking back and then looking forward as far as Anna and Elsa and their family. And we saw a couple touching and yet hilarious scenes at the same time. And the animation looks beautiful. I'm just so excited for Frozen 2, and it's just a couple months away, and I cannot wait until it comes out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it does look like it has some real intense moments, but definitely also some real warmth between the characters, now that they've been developed a little bit more, so you can see some of that interaction differently, and it does look exciting for sure. It's
also one of those things. They also told us that they decided to make this almost like a conclusion. Well, I don't know. We'll see what happens money-wise if it's a conclusion. But they said it's almost like a two parts of the same story. That Frozen 2 is kind of completing the entire story is what they told us of Frozen. So
right. Well, it has a little bit of prequel in it. So I think they said if you put the two of them together, you have the complete story.
Right.
Yep.
So, like I said, the music is spectacular. The whole cast there, again, because you already know the cast, they've already kind of set the tone. They kind of given you the idea that you could probably get going with this movie. You do not need to learn who every single person is within the story, at least not the classic characters. We'll see about new characters when they get in. But I'm excited. Like I said, I'm all in on Frozen 2, and I cannot wait for it to get here in November.
Yeah, it looks great.
So those were our moments. And again, I stayed away from Star Wars. I could have just gone top 5 Star Wars moments. And I did that pretty much on the Jedi Temple Archives podcast, by the way, if you want to catch that. I was on with our good friend Rob LeBerry and kind of went through some of the Star Wars news that came from D23 Expo 2019 on his last show. But there were so many great Star Wars moments, but that I could have just made this whole list about that if I really wanted to.
And I would have assumed that you would. So.
Yeah, I thought I was going to begin with. I was going to put them in there. I realized it was just going to dominate everything, and I wanted to get to some of the other moments because we talked about a lot of the Star Wars stuff before, and I also talked about it on, the show on our good friend Rob's show.
That's right.
That's right. So that's it. I mean, we don't really have any Disney stories of the week because pretty much everything happened last week. And not that there weren't a couple Disney stories this week, but we just didn't think it took our time very much. Mostly we want to talk about, I want to say that, hey, congrats to Walt Disney World Resort, to Disney Hollywood Studios for successfully opening Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. It looks like everybody had a fantastic time.
Yeah, it seemed like it was smooth opening.
Right. All your pictures out there were magnificent, and we cannot wait to visit it ourselves. So good job out there by you all, and it's exciting stuff.
And all the cast members who
all
put
the
it
cast
together.
Members are fantastic.
Yeah.
So, yep, always, and we talked about that already. So, but we do have tips for you because that pretty much every regular episode we didn't give any tips during our recap episodes, but we're back to our regular episodes now. So we will never leave you on a regular episode while giving you some sort of tip that might help you on your next vacation, whether it be to the Walt Disney World Resort, the Disneyland Resort, Disney Cruise Line, whatever the case may be. And we always start with Michelle because she always has the best list. Yes, she has the best lips and the best lists, but she always also has the best tips. So let's get to Michelle's tip of the week.
Oh, you're so sweet, baby. Well, a couple weeks ago when we had our last full show, I talked about mermaid school.
We didn't get enough followers. I'm sorry. I was hoping to be able to do that for you all, but we didn't get enough followers on Twitter. But we may still try and make that work where I get to go to mermaid school. We'll see what we can do about that.
You're just looking for a reason. I know.
So much.
So kind of to, on the other side of the coin, I wanted to talk about what would be available to you, which is Captain Hook's pirate crew, and
I'm more mermaid than pirate.
I know. This one is it does have an age restriction of 4 to 12 year olds, and it's also at the Beach Club Resort, but it's just a fun thing if you want to try something different, whether you be a boy or a girl, it doesn't matter. You want to be a pirate, go to school for it, right? And here you have Captain Hook as your leader, so can't be anything but fun, and maybe a little mischief involved in that, but you get a pirate's name, and they teach you how to sing sea shanties. Yeah, I can say it. Yeah.
Just like I could say lips and lists and tips.
Right, so, exactly. Yeah. And you do a treasure hunt, and I don't want to spoil any of the little special surprises of that, and then you top it off with a pirate's feast, and I love some of the dishes that they serve. Cannon meatballs, right? And macaroni and gold sauce. But again, I don't want to go into a lot of details.
I guess for that age group, asking where the rum is wasn't the correct response, right? Yeah.
That's true. But if ye be an adult and want to get into your pirate, they do have the Pirates and Pal firework dessert voyage. That's, really for any ages. And that's another opportunity to cruise out on the Seven Seas Lagoon and get your pirate on. But we've really had some fun stories about that, but which I won't go into right now. But it is also a very fun way to start your evening off. It's more like a dessert party, and then you or snacks and desserts, and then you get to board your ship to go out on the lagoon. But a lot of fun there, and it ends with a cute little surprise. So if you're interested in being a pirate with the Disney company, you have some options at Walt Disney World.
That's nice. And again, I'm more mermaid than pirate, but I kind of like that concept. And yes, we have. Well, we haven't taken part in the pirate party. We have witnessed it from afar, and it's always entertaining. We kind of got a big kick out of watching it very many nights, and
we heard a lot.
We heard a lot, and it looks like a lot of fun. And we have discussed it at some point, doing it possibly to check out the fireworks. But it does look like a lot of fun for everybody involved, for sure.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, very good. Michelle's tips,
you.
always the best tips. My tip, I'm going to go back. This is probably a rehash of something I've talked about a little bit before, and probably Michelle has talked about a little bit.
I was going to say probably something I've talked about. I'm just kidding.
But
you never steal my ideas.
No. It's because Michelle always has the best tips, so I have to steal them occasionally. But I usually wait at least a month until I do it. But let's face it, it's been hot on the East Coast. It always is hot in Florida. It's hot over here on the West Coast recently. So I want to talk a little bit about plotting out your day for when it is a little bit on the warmer side on your vacations. And, I think that you need to kind of plan these things out ahead of time. Look at the weather going in on your resort stays and knowing how to try take the best advantage of it. Now, some cases you're not going to be able to just go and come back to your hotel room or go to the pool or whatever, especially if you're at the Disneyland Resort and you're just going for the day. So you're going to have to try and take advantage of some of the shady spaces that they have available for you. Now, we don't have as many at the Disneyland Resort as at the Walt Disney World Resort, but that doesn't mean there are not a few that you can kind of use to kind of help you along. I go into the animation building in California Adventure Park, where they have a Turtle Talk with Crush. They have, the animators. Why can't I think of the name of it?
Academy.
Thank you. The Animators Academy, where you can go in and learn to draw your favorite character. And it's just a good time. Even if you just want to just go sit in there, they do some great stuff with projections and songs on the walls. Even if you just kind of want to go in there and sit for a little bit and just get out of the heat for a little bit, that's a great way to do it. And, there are some other spaces around. There's great shows you can go see, whatever the case may be, to kind of get out of the hottest part of the day. And what I really am talking about is planning out your day, right, knowing what the weather is going to be like. Go on whatever weather app you use. Go to the hourly forecast and check it all out. And let's say if there's things that are more outside that you're going to have to walk more to in the sunshine or whatever the case may be, you may want to plot those earlier in the day or later in the day. Right. And then you have those areas in the middle of the day where you can take a breather, take a break, whether it is go back to your resort and get a little breather, go to the pool and cool down, get some food somewhere, whatever the case may be. Find that space in the middle of the day where it's at its hottest, where you can kind of take a break. It'll be great for everybody, especially the young ones in your group that, maybe be a little more susceptible to that. Our son tends to not exactly like sunscreen or some of the things that we really would appreciate to do. So, we bring umbrellas to kind of shield him a little bit, from the sun. Find ways to kind of adapt to the situation. Find out what works best for you. But the main thing is try and plan it. Don't just, if it's a day that's super hot and super humid, to just go all the time. Believe me, you'll get much more rewarding experience out of your day if you take a break just for a couple hours or even just for 20 minutes or so to just kind of cool down and relax. Everybody will be rewarded in your group, in your family, when you just take a pause every once in a while.
That's a great tip. And you talked about the Disneyland Resort having less shade opportunities. That's true. And the other thing, if you haven't been out here, is doing research to realize that some of the restaurants are only outdoor seating. And so that could still be very hot and uncomfortable. And so you might want to factor that in as well.
Yeah. So just take it all into account. Plot out your day. As all your Disney trips, you should do some sort of planning. Don't just go willy-nilly, but especially when the weather is severe, whether it either be heat or whether it be a lot of rain, you want to have your days plotted out. Rain is a little easier to deal with than significant heat in my account, but that doesn't mean you don't need to plan for it. And again, it just will make your day and your trip that much better for it.
Right. And like you always said, hydrate. Right. And know also that there is first aid there if things are getting a little really tough to deal with. If you're thinking somebody's really having a tough time, about to pass out or whatever, check out first aid so you don't have, something really more tragic happen.
And don't forget that you can always get ice water at any place that has a fountain drink. Doesn't cost you a cent. Of course, bring water in, but ice water is available for you at any of those places for free. I
actually find them offering it more now. Mm-hmm. Like, would you like either bottled water or ice water to take with you?
Yep.
So
Yep. And you don't even need to wait in line. Sometimes you can just go to the mobile ordering site and
Right.
just say, can I get some ice water? And they'll have it ready for you
Sure.
pretty quickly to
True.
go. So that's my tip of the
Good
week.
point.
Michelle's tip, always the best tip.
Yeah,
And I think
yours
I
is
borrowed a little bit of that from hers because she has the best tip, but still appropriate. So that's it for this week. Next week, well, we're going to look back at this stay at the Disneyland Hotel a little bit and kind of, tell you what we thought about the whole thing and experience it. And we may have a couple other surprises. We're working out to have some more on that show as well. So we'll be sure and get that to you. I'm excited for another fantastic episode next week. Yay! So that's it for today. Please follow us on social media, on Twitter at Hyperion Podcast, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest at Hyperion Adventures Podcast. And if you ever want to email us for any reason, any of the subjects we covered today, if there's any subjects you want us to cover in the future, we would love to hear from you on our email address, HyperionAdventuresPodcast@gmail.com.
Right. And thank you again for those of you who have written into us or given us feedback. We truly appreciate it. And as always, we love when you share with a friend or family member about our podcast.
Yes. Thank you so very much. And we appreciate you found us today. In the future, the best place to find us is on our website, HyperionAdventuresPodcast.com. And of course, you can always subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're on Spotify, Stitcher. We had a little problem with Spotify, by the way, for a couple of weeks, and we weren't showing up there, but I've got that rectified now. All our episodes are back on Spotify, so that's taken care of. We're also on iHeartMedia, by the way. And like Michelle said, please, if you have the time, give us a rating. If you have a little more time, give us a review. But more importantly, please tell a friend that you like this show and that they might like to like this show. They might like this show as well.
Good job.
Yeah, the heat has gotten to me,
I
apparently.
know, right?
Time for me to cool down. So that's it. Thank you for listening to the Hyperion Adventures Podcast. We look forward to sharing some time with you again next week. But until that time, I'm Tom.
I'm Michelle.
And we hope that you have a magical week.